to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell. I hope you all enjoyed episode number 297 of this podcast, as we had Rex on talking about Kindred as Horse Doctor, and Punchinello took over that. Thank you very much, Punch, for doing that for us.
That was awesome.
Punch, hit your camera button just so it lines up for me. Even if it's spinning, it lines up the overlay. Nice and great. Thank you. Yes, it was awesome. And I have not listened to the interview yet, but did you guys learn quite a bit?
Oh, yeah, I learned a ton. Actually, I had some questions about our kit that Rex was able to answer pretty well. And just there was a good insight into the character design. He shared a lot of that, actually. I was surprised with how open he was. So it was a really good interview. There's a lot of good information in there.
I need to go back. I want to go listen to it. I just haven't had a moment to yet, because that did release technically today, which is Wednesday.
But the champion won't be out till a little bit later.
Right. I want to listen to it primarily because I want to. I'm really interested in finding out why they're doing an ADC jungle and how they expect the meta to evolve. I'm assuming you guys talked about that a little bit, right?
A little bit. Yeah, there were some questions about that. There were some questions about if they plan to make more non-ranged AD champions like Mordekaiser to help complement this, and the answer to that was basically yes. So it does look like they're aiming to shift a lot in the marksman role having marksman-like champions in other roles.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to that episode 297, you guys can check that out. It should be in your feed already. As this is
according
Friday,
to Riot Katie Chaos, tweeted today, it should be released next week sometime.
Awesome.
No exact date has been announced.
Yeah. Before I'm going to keep all announcements to the end of this podcast, but guys, don't forget to go check out TrinityForceNetwork.com. We'll talk about it later, but by the time that you listen to this podcast, TrinityForceNetwork.com will have changed. Again, that's Friday. So let's jump right in and talk about patch 5.19. It's a pretty small patch. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the patch notes, probably talk about Devourer a little bit, and then jump into any final listener questions that we have in the document. And then next Monday is the episode number 300, which I don't think we're doing anything crazy for. Like, we had to plan for all this stuff, but it just kind of seems like with the way the podcast is going and the information we want to handle to you, we don't have time to stop and do a crazy fun episode. Maybe a little bit later. Maybe we'll do like episode 300 for 312 or something.
So what episode is this? 299?
298.
Oh, okay.
So many episodes.
So episode 300
next Monday is 299 then.
Correct.
Right after all mid.
You mean Wednesday is the 300?
Yes, but still, even then, I think we're having a Patreon guest that day.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I have to read his email. He sent me one, and I don't know if he confirmed it or not. So patch 5.19, Kindred revealed coming out next week, and now we're going to jump right in there. Garen has had a judgment fix, which is his E. Fixed a bug where judgment was dealing damage to the villain equal to 1% of Garen's health rather than the villain's 1% of the villain.
This is huge because, like, just look at it from the perspective of, okay, the villain who's likely getting kills because that's how this whole thing works is probably much squishier than Garen is, and a 4-item Garen anywhere from like 3,600 to 4K health.
Yep.
Against
I wonder
potentially
how often that happened.
If it was like consistently happening, this is a big damage.
I feel like this was a consistent thing because, like I said, I was never actually scared of Garen. I usually banned it for my teammates because I'm not the one playing top, and
you do that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adam's always so
gotta protect
out
your
for his teammates.
I'm selfless. I'm selfless like that. No, like I was saying, like I talked about a couple podcasts ago, that I felt like Garen was busting through tanks and busting through people and this and that, and I think even Horse had said, come back and said, like if you're a Garen, you're running at somebody, do you really? I remember, you guys remember the whole conversation, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, Garen does a lot of damage though, like he's doing something, so it's this bug, because this Garen with like a Warbogs is just chewing through people.
Well, and that was the thing too. Like even Garen, if he's building Sterix and he's building Dead Man's Plate and he's building Black Cleaver, 4 items, he's still around 4K health. 2 of those items increases damage. That's a whole lot of health. So like again, it's items that are already increasing his damage a little bit, and then he's getting a lot of health from them. And if his E is scaling, the bug's making it do damage based on his percentage health. So that's way more damage than it was probably supposed to be doing. So for those of you who are surprised if Garen's doing much less damage now on squishier targets, there's a reason for that.
Humorously, these patch notes, when I read these, I feel like I should have noticed these bugs or read about it previously, or like sometimes I feel like I should be able to recognize these bugs, but it's hard to recognize because obviously it is a bug and it's not something we can see because we don't have the data in front of us. But every time I read one of these, I'm like, I really should know this and I should be able to talk about this previously before it happens. It just makes me laugh. I don't know if any of you guys have that happen.
I mean, there are some bugs where you can take notice of them because they're easy to spot, like something that has functionality that shouldn't be there. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but this would be the opposite case where it's just a numbers bug where you can't really tell what's going on unless you have access to.
But it's like when you look at somebody. It's like when you look at somebody who shaved their eyebrows. You know something's wrong, but you can't place your finger on it. You're like, they look weird, but I don't know why. And same kind of thing. It's like, why is he doing so much damage? I didn't see that much in the notes, but something's fishy. Mm-hmm. So I did notice that. I was like, why is Garen getting banned? I looked at his improvements. It's like the villain thing. Yeah.
If you're squishy, you expect to die fast.
Now
anyways,
it's like, wow.
So. I mean, it's not really out of the ordinary if Garen spins on you and you die.
I don't expect to die.
Yeah, you weren't calculating it.
I don't expect to die,
good
though.
Philosophy. I'm going to adopt that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to expect to die anymore.
All right, let's talk about Misfortune, because she got a change to her bullet time, the R. She has a new ratio per wave. Now additionally scales with 0.1, 0.175, and 0.25 of bonus attack damage per wave. Total ratio is 0.8, 1.4, 2.0 for the duration of the ultimate. So if she's building raw AD, she's doing tons of damage with the duration of her ultimate, essentially, or doing a lot of it.
And the early things that I'm hearing is pure AD is the way to go on her now. And it seems obvious. I mean, the basis for this change is so that her ult doesn't just fall off late game, because that's what it was doing. I mean, it wasn't worthwhile to use in the late game. You're just better off auto attacking. And
this is a 5-year coming change.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure it used to have one, and then they changed it so that it incorporated impure stacks damage, and they took it away. But it never had a huge AD ratio like this. It always fell off late.
My question...
If you're stuck in it.
Go ahead.
If you're stuck in it the full duration, it's doing double damage than if you just get hit with a couple waves.
Double your bonus attack damage, correct?
Right.
You see, here. Okay, here's the thing. Mike, who the hell would change the document? I had all of our things... All right, never mind. I found it. I'm just a dumbass. Hold on, 8:45. All right.
Stand by.
Stand by. Let me... Lancefur, I like this. Thanks, Lancefur. Except for DC put center down. Guys, I have the numbers in there. 298. That's the episode. I'm sorry that I'm getting off track. Nobody knows what's going on.
Why can't...
Not Sean coughing, putting it under 2... Okay, guys, for those of you out there that before I was moving on the topic, I in the show doc, I started putting the episode number in there, and then timestamps. I wanted people to put the timestamps underneath of it for, like, if they make a coughing noise. And people are putting them, like, way under... underneath episode 300 and stuff.
But 920 to 950-ish. Adam whines about document not related to podcast. Edit out, Lancefur.
All right. All related to the podcast.
Let's talk.
So misfortune. That was misfortunate that we tangented there, but
well, no. I had more to say, but then Adam took it away.
I'm going to say more, and I'm going to interrupt you again. No, because even with these changes, I don't know if the raw AD build is the way to go. Because a while ago, I had argued with somebody about Misfortune the way she was building the new Misfortune, even the old one, and that's Misfortune is known as an early and mid game bully, specifically a lane bully based on her Q. And, the amount of damage she do and the attack speed she gains, yada, yada, yada. Not to mention impure shots helping her stack up that attack speed. That's, not attack speed, damage, sorry.
Bonus damage.
Yeah,
it gives her attack speed.
Right. So we started talking, and then it was like, Trinity Force is the way to go with her, because she gains movement speed. She gains crit, she gains, Sheen proc damage because Q is low enough. She can proc enough W. She can proc enough E. She gets the Sheen procs if she balances it properly. And she becomes a lane bully with it because it applies on hit effects. And I started thinking, all right, Trinity Force sounds like a great item to do. And if you can move that into mid game and take towers and end the game before it gets to late, you've played Misfortune correctly. So even with these AD ratios, what is stopping you, or rather I should say, why would it be better to build AD if at all? When she does so well synergizing with Trinity Force. It's like taking Kog'Maw and giving him an AD ratio on... I guess that's not really a good comparison.
Well, if you take T-Force, that still doesn't kill a full AD build otherwise. Like, right. Oh no, she's going to be missing out on some attack speed, but like for her kit, that's going to be fine.
Well, it's not so much attack speed. It's the presence in lane and the overall dominance that Sheen gives her in lane, Okay. It's kind of like a Corki where that mid-game power spike, you have to use it to really make him worthwhile.
So she picks that up, and then she immediately rolls into an IE. Yeah. And she's still building raw damage from there on out. Like,
right. No, it's not a nerf by any means. I'm just saying there's an alternate way to play her that seems to be more optimal than rushing IE.
I can see that, but attack damage is always going to be really good. It's always going to give you dominance and bullying pressure. It's going to... Building AD is a safe way to succeed, especially for a wombo comp, because now Curse of the Sad Bullet Time or whatever you got going, the more AD you have, the more you maximize that ult for that. Well, we just did a wombo here, and because of how that went, we can now do this and take an objective, or we now win the game.
Because of that, I think it might actually depend on the team comp you're playing against for how you would build. Or I guess, yeah, if you've got a wombo combo on your team. I wanted to bring up the enemy team as well, because... Misfortune doesn't do very well against divers because they just dive out of the way of her ult and they dive on her face. Trinity Force is going to be much better served in those games because you can do more damage more quickly. You don't have to rely on your ult to kill the enemy team. But if we're playing that wombo combo, like you said, Claude, then I think that full attack damage build is definitely going to be the way to go. But she can excel in lane. Yeah. She can excel in lane in either item you go first. If you go BF Sword or if you go Sheen and Trinity Force, she can bullet the lane.
So when we talk a lot about this, it's kind of like going back to that Zyra conversation we never have. It's best case scenario. What can you use it for? Can you go back with 1,200 gold and buy this Sheen? Because
exactly. What gold do you have? Do you have enough for BF Sword? Get a BF Sword.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you go back at 1,500, 1,600, 1,550 or 1,600 gold and you can buy a BF Sword, you might as well buy it and have that giant power spike. But if you're going back early and you're able to afford the Sheen, you might as well buy the Sheen and go in the trade.
If you know what you're doing and you're ahead enough and you're able to pick up kills early, even on champions that synergize great with T-Force, if I can buy a BF Sword, I usually buy a BF Sword because if I'm crushing somebody in the lane as an AD carry, and I'm not saying I'm a great AD carry, but if I'm already beating somebody pretty bad and I can go and afford one, I'm going to hit really, really hard with autos as soon as I get back, especially if I can pick that up early.
Especially if you're good at hitting her Q because of that bonus damage that the second proc for Q has now. It's nuts. It can do half health of their damage, or half of their health
in damage.
Doesn't Q apply on hit effects?
It does.
Yes,
I want to say it does.
I thought it does.
Yeah, the problem is they don't say on their wiki. I have to search Google for Misfortune. League of Legends.
I don't remember using Q to proc Sheen, but I could be mistaken. I haven't played Trinity.
Yes, it applies on hit effects to both people it hits. Yeah. Both the first hit and the second hit apply the on hit. Okay, that's why Sheen is so good, because you can kill a minion and hit somebody else with it and get the Sheen proc.
Yeah, I definitely want to try her more. I mean, the last change I made, I felt like there was potential there.
Hey,
But
don't
It
forget.
says it on our wiki.
Yeah, don't forget
right there.
that she has a 0.35 AP ratio, so she does get more damage to double up outside of the proc.
Yeah.
Oh, it,
For that support misfortune build.
it's only the second target that gets hit with on hit, right?
Applying on-hit effects to both.
Oh, to both.
Yeah.
I didn't complete reading. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, let's move on from misfortune, shall we? Let's talk about Shen. Shen, Shadow Dash.
Shen.
Fix the bug that caused taunted enemies to not deal reduced damage to Shen. I'll take things I never noticed for 100,
Okay.
Alex.
No,
Make
no.
him beefier than he already was.
Like
Interesting.
you can say that. Dom actually, Dom has this habit of tweeting me weird champions that he wants me to start playing.
I saw him tweet you about Olaf or
Yeah.
Shen Jungle.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so he tweeted me about that, and I did it, and it was funny because I was clearing the jungle. It's like, oh, this is the. It's not a fast clear, but I take no damage the entire time I'm in the jungle, which was cool. But I was maxing E because the taunt lasts longer, and I felt like I was getting auto attacked for so much damage, even though I was using my E. So like, if there was a bug
did
that was
kind of feel
causing
it.
these enemies to do the same amount of damage that they were supposed to, and Shadow Dash wasn't reducing that damage, that's a big change.
Yeah, that is a huge change.
That's especially in the early game when you're squishier and you're potentially like trying to get that grab. Like,
Yeah.
it,
I mean,
One to
that's where he
two-
trades in the top lane.
yeah, 3 auto attacks is like that's a third or more of your health. That's not insignificant. So if it's reducing that damage by what it's supposed to, like that if it wasn't working as intended, this helps him out. I'm not going to say it's going to make or break him, but it's definitely going to help him.
You won't notice what you were noticing before.
Right. Well, I'm
Maxing
hoping
heat.
I'm noticing less damage than I was before because I felt like I was
Well, you
getting
probably
hit really
were.
hard.
Yeah. If something felt out of place, yeah, that probably was
Yeah.
it.
Because it was weird. I never remembered being hit that hard that early playing Shen.
He took a bit of a hurt to his trading last patch, and they reduced the heal on his Q.
Right.
And I feel like this kind of brings it back a little bit.
Yeah, it should at least.
For those of you who are like Valm and play Shen, almost main Shen, this will be a huge change. I will say that before this I said I did not notice it, but I want to say that I've gone back now thinking about it where I felt like I've taken a lot of damage taunting somebody, and it's kind of like one of those feelings after talking to Sean or listening to you guys talk about it. I go, you know what? Now that I think about it, I had to take some extra damage last time I taunted somebody. So yeah, no, this is a pretty big change, especially because a lot of times you're I tell people on Shen to use their Shadow Dash as a trading mechanic in lane. I think Punch brought that up, where you're going to take a lot of minion damage when you do it, but you're also forcing them to take minion damage, and that's the whole point of Shadow Dashing through somebody when they're in a minion wave, because they attack you and
The difference is you're doing the same amount of damage that you would be doing, and they're hitting you for less, but the minions should be hitting you for the same, so you ultimately win the trade.
right. You're using minions to your advantage by Shadow Dashing. So, Zach, okay, before I check about the Elastic Slingshot change, I played with Chiro the other day playing Zach, and that increased range on Elastic Slingshot is
amazing.
insane.
It's amazing. All right. I want to say I'm really surprised I haven't seen nearly as much Zach play because holy engagement range, Batman. It's very significant.
Sean's jumping from like the middle of river to middle of mid lane. I mean, that's at a stretch,
You
but
can jump from
A stretch.
like the mouth of Dragon Pit all the way to the river bush in middle, like, and not the little like bush that's by
Oh,
itself.
really?
The actual long
Wow.
bush
Yeah.
in middle. The range is ridiculous. You're a giant slime missile. It's great.
they fixed this slime missile so that it
Sounds
can
fun.
have a range of 0 instead of 300. If you never noticed before, if you just hit it, you jumped forward 300 units rather than just jumping in place. And some of you may have found that to be you may have lost a kill or two because of it, or missed a stun or something. So they've made it so you can actually jump 0 units.
And
It's old Olaf Q.
heads up if you start playing Zac, because you'll start taking damage in the jungle and you'll be like, crap, why do I feel like I'm taking so much damage early? If you get really good at using your abilities, you'll be sitting at like half health, but you'll never get lower than half health.
Right.
Because your abilities cost your current health and they give you back your max health. So the lower the health you get, the less your abilities cost, and you're getting way more health back for them. So like the first clear,
stay the course.
Yeah, you're really squishy, but don't be afraid, because as long as you're using your abilities appropriately, you're not going to die. And mind you, you are going to have to be wary about potential ganks early, because if you're low on health, that's an easy way for somebody to walk in and pop your passive. But again, if you're warded up, if you know that somebody's not in there to kill you, don't be afraid to keep hitting that blue, even though you only have a quarter health and it's borderline at full. You should be able to keep your health pretty high.
As long as you're walking over your blobs.
Right. And another thing, use your abilities, use your W, and then run over your blobs, and your W resets its cooldown.
Step on your blobs.
Please do that, because you're going to die if you don't.
Are you maxing E then?
Yeah. I'm still maxing E. Like, being able to engage from an entire lane's length away is so good, and it does so much damage. If you get good at landing that, you're so flush at murdering somebody. It's amazing. It's
and it
so
feels
good.
really good to land on your target.
It definitely does.
From a long shot.
Not to mention, like, you can CC multiple people with that. Like, you can land that on 3 or 4 people if they're grouped in a stupid way from forever away. They won't even know you're there. That's
you can gank outside of ward range.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I'd say Zach is pretty
bot lane.
powerful.
Yeah,
you know,
fucking Zach.
I've heard that there was a day where Devourer was disabled, and heard that was like the best day ever.
It wasn't just a day. It was all last weekend.
Oh my god!
I lock in Trinity for a game on Saturday, and I try to build Devourer, and I'm talking with people in TeamSpeak. I'm like, why can't I build Devourer? And they're like, it's disabled. I'm like, oh, I would not have picked Trinity if I knew this was disabled.
GG, sir.
Yes,
I just played Warrior.
Yeah, and I ended up doing that, and it was fine. But Wrecker was saying, he's like, man, I've won so many ranked games without anybody getting Devour this weekend. This is wonderful. I get to see tanks out of the jungle again.
Yeah. So Devour had a change in this patch where the Phantom hit for ranged champions is every 4th hit, while the Phantom hit for melee champions has been unchanged, because they noticed that the ranged champions such as Vayne and Kale were potentially becoming too powerful. And I think that's something that we said when this first item first came out, that Kale jungle, if properly played with Devourer, was going to be unstoppable.
Oh, it's not just Vayne and Kale, though. This is for Kindred.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a Kindred.
Yeah, so on Friday, actually, Horse asked this for Riot Wex. Because the last Devourer nerf kind of was confusing, and Horse is wondering, is this in preparation for Kindred? And the answer is actually yes, it was. Which surprised the hell out of me, and this is.
I think I said that in the last podcast. That's funny.
I mean, this is the same exact scenario. So in their testing, Kindred always builds Devour first, and she can melt faces with it.
At least they have the foresight to change something like this rather than letting it go and then
letting it just happen and then being like, crap, we need to change the item.
Yeah, and getting us a late patch, right? Yeah, so Devourer being changed. You know, speaking of Devourer, I was reading somebody on Reddit the other day where they were like, I like Devour. He said, I'm a master level jungler and I like Devourer because I feel like it teaches people how to jungle. And I wanted to reply to this guy and give him this long paragraph of how he's wrong and da-da-da. But I mean, he had good points, and he said that Devourer teaches you how to jungle because it makes you choose to whether to farm or whether to take objectives or to gank, and it teaches you to do this. And I'm like, it does the opposite, because people don't look at it that way. People are not taught to properly, without being taught to properly jungle through normal items like Warrior, Devourer has the opposite effect whether you want it to or not.
I think he has a good point on it's a good thing to help you sharpen your jungling skills if you know how to jungle.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's just picking it up and is like, hey, I'm gonna get this item and then just power farm until it's full, and I'm not super useful until that happens, then that's where you run into the issue with this item.
And that's the majority of the people who are going to pick this item up. They power farm thinking that if they get to this item, they're going to hit a power spike that's more powerful than the enemy, when they don't realize that by not affecting their lanes, that the enemy is becoming more powerful than Devourer is going to be able to handle.
It's really funny because I've jungled forever, and don't get me wrong, I thought the Scuttle Crab was a cool mechanic, but until I started playing Devourer junglers, I never kept a timer on when those little guys were coming up or popping up. But that becomes a significant part of your clear. As soon as you get that item, it's like, okay, I need to plan this out because the scuttle crab's coming up. That's going to give me a
smart
boost.
Enemy
if I can go and I can get a kill right after doing that, I just got 4 stacks in about 40 seconds, which is pretty good. You know, what do I need to do to try and get this thing stacked up as quickly as possible? And kills are one of the best way of doing that. So it completely changes up. It's interesting how once you have an understanding of the base rules, I guess, for something, and you get an item like this comes in that makes you really hone in on that understanding and kind of like sharpen things to a very keen edge.
That's a real good point. Players out there, if you see enemies playing, excuse me, playing a Devourer jungle, like Trinity, for example,
please take those crabs.
Go ahead, take those crabs. Mid, top, help out. You know, jungle, go for the crab, ping it, and just run up there real quick, throw a couple of nukes at it, kill it, go back to your lane.
Over the course,
him, and you're protecting yourself from getting ganked.
Over the course of him trying to get his Devourer up, which usually you can get it maxed out around the 24-minute mark, is probably average, maybe a little bit sooner than that. If you're doing really well, taking those taking Scuttle away is quite a great way to slow. It's super good at slowing it down. Yeah. Because when you get that crab, it's like, wow, 2 stacks, that's awesome. All right, that thing's got so much quicker. And then as soon as you get that taken away, it's like, crap, that sets. You know, I have to wait.
Yeah.
I have to wait a full minute on 2 camps to show back up before I can make up the equivalent of that. It's a big loss.
What is it? It lasts for a minute 30, but respawns every 3 minutes. Is that what it is? Yeah. Let's move on and talk about leashing and jungle tuning. Leashing, they've now changed it so that jungle monsters have a patience bar above their head. When a monster is in an aggressive state but can't find its target to attack, that is, it loses its patience. When a monster target is too far away from the monster's initial spawn location, or the monster is very far away from its initial spawn location, it loses patience. Or when the monster is forced to switch target, it starts losing patience. What is it? Is it 5 times? Or they instead of the monster's patience reduced to 0, the monster reset. Basically, it's a way to tell if the monster is going to de-aggro and head back to its spawn point.
Which is another change for Kindred, who's going to be doing a lot of that leashing, a lot of those leashing mechanics. That's another thing that was asked during the Friday's episode. was Horse was wondering, all right, so you're releasing this new ranged jungle-only champion. Are you worried that new players who aren't as familiar with leashing mechanics in the jungle will be able to play this champion? And Rex didn't actually. He affirmed that yes, that was a worry, but he didn't say too much more, and I think this is why, because these changes are right on the horizon. These leashing changes. So at the very least, now you can see this patience bar, so you know when your jungle camp's about to reset. So that should help in determining, all right, I've gone too far, I've kited too far away from the camp location, or if you're taking this as a bot lane duo, we've reset the target too many times. It adds more visibility to the leashing mechanic, which I think just inherently makes it easier to do.
Was this kind of there in the background anyway, only just based on number of hits?
Yeah, there was a leashing thing going on.
It was a solid number of
mechanic,
hits.
But it was just a set number of hits instead of, well, how does the bar is more specific, but I think it was also when it aggroed too far out of the spawn, blah blah, all these little things.
It still may be a number of hits. I mean, it just might be normalized to a bar state.
Resets.
I don't know. I don't know. They don't say how much of the bar is taken away for any of these scenarios. If you move too far away, or if it can't find any targets to attack, it doesn't really say how quickly the bar drains.
Mm-hmm. Something to play with. I doubt it's going to be a significant change. The one that's a significant change is the jungle tuning of Gromp's attack range, because it is now 250 from 550, so you can no longer attack Gromp from over the wall, which is another Kindred change. So you can no longer have vision on Gromp and kill it from over the wall, meaning that you can't. Also, an AD carry can't take Gromp as they're running to lane.
That makes me sad.
Do you do that a lot?
Yeah, they mentioned that because monsters lose patience now when the target is too far away, that they had to make this Gromp change, which kind of confused me because Gromp could attack you back.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure I understand fully what they were trying to get at there. But they also mentioned that the wolf could attack over walls with its 175 range.
Oh,
So
like
they lowered that to
wall?
125.
Well, let's talk about
before.
Go ahead.
Well, because his attack range was so far, he just kind of hang out there. But now, since it's shorter, he can be towed away
a little bit before his patience meter starts to reset, or he starts to de-aggro. Basically, the way I take this is you can't move them too far outside of their initial spawn locations. You can pull blue into the bush, but if you pull blue too far outside of the bush, she walks back.
Yes.
So, HUD changes too. They are having some HUD changes in here. I know we bitched about that a little bit, but the new HUD changes have been great, and they're continually making some great updates to it. And that's new preference to display or hide summoner names on the scoreboard. New preference to mirror the scoreboard layout, which is great. I can't wait to turn that on. New preference to display team frames on the left side of the screen as well for those players who like to switch around their screen a little bit.
But I just got used to them on the bottom right of the screen.
It's a preference.
Yeah, it's a preference. You can change it.
It's up to you.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for patch 5.19. It's a very, very small patch. From what I understand, though, Worlds is being played on patch 5.18, right? Unless they made a change or they decided that they needed these fixes to come in. Because I kind of wonder if the Garen fix has to come in.
I wouldn't expect to see Garen anyways.
I wouldn't either, just because the 2v1s can be so prevalent.
I mean, this is small enough. They probably could fit it in, but
they were pretty definitive about it. 5.18.
Right.
For Worlds, so they had a plan.
I expect it to be 5.18, but I would not be surprised if they were suddenly like, hey, 5.19's here because we wanted these extra changes to come in. But there's not really anything that's make or break when it comes to professional play.
Yeah, assuming the deletion changes aren't that big. It's a significant UI change because you actually see it now. But
nah, the pro players shouldn't really matter.
I don't know.
Right?
I mean, it does change how Gromp works. Like we said, you can't take it over the wall anymore. So I wonder if it does change the mechanics of some other camps.
Sure. Well, no, they did that. They did that for Gromp because they changed the Gromp attack range, not because of the leashing, though.
I think they were tied together, though.
Gromp's attack range and the leashing?
Thanks to the new leashing rules above, this makes taking Gromp over the wall impossible. He'd lose his patience.
Oh.
So we're making him easier to kite and juggle without taking damage. But they lower. Yeah, I'm not sure I follow what they were trying to get at there.
So I'm gonna have to actually see this mechanic work in game before.
Yeah,
it's easier to kite him around, pretty much.
Yeah, it does sound like it'd be easier for a dual bot lane to take him.
Because he'll move more, easily than before. Because he has a shorter range, so he'll be hopping around. You can kite him a little bit. It should be easier. Like I've experienced that difficulty trying to mess around with leashing him like that. So I see what they're going for with the, like you said, with the Kindred release.
Kindred's changing everything. He's ruining everything.
Isn't it a she?
I think it should be an AD carry.
Or is it
he? They.
Is it a she?
They.
Lamb and Big Wolf?
It confuses the hell out of me to say they. Very weird
they.
pronoun for a single champion.
They're Kindred, dude. Come on.
I say she because I think she's the female
damn
and
it,
she's
Tira.
the one that's actually walking around.
And Big Wolf is this kindred spirit.
I'm so excited to play that champion, though.
I am not, because I don't jungle. But hey, let's talk about listener questions for the last half this episode, just like I promised earlier.
Okay.
My family doesn't like that new champion. It's the kind of champion that Kindred.
Great. All right. Anyway, let's move on.
Great.
Thanks to Claude.
Thank you.
That's your swan song. Remember that.
Well, you missed my Toad one.
No, I got it. I ignore it though. Just remember, this is your swan song. You better make it good. Kent, he writes in, he says, I mained Skarner to carry me to gold, but I've hit a wall now. It seems every time I take most of the kills, I suffocate my teammates. I tried allowing them to get kills, which resulted in enemies escaping. I get raged on for doing so. Now I've built up hesitation over killing blows. Should I learn to carry better, or work on getting the rest of my team fed? TLDR, how do I use the money that I've received?
Didn't we have this question before, or a similar one?
We have lots of these
We've
similar
probably
questions.
seen this question
A few ago.
or
It was
something
only a
similar
few
one time.
episodes ago. But
listen, I just realized that 7 months ago we did something on the podcast. Oh shit, what was it today? Something popped up today. We just I was like, that was 7 months ago.
Recorded an episode or so.
Yeah, when was this email sent? Because if he's doing this with new Skarner, how is he playing games where Skarner's not getting banned?
Wait, Skarner's,
what voodoo magic
still
is
getting banned?
Yes.
I'm still banning him.
I haven't seen any bans on him.
That guy's still scary, man.
Skarner's scary, yo.
I don't want to fight that guy.
Take your kills because it's better to have the kill, like you said. Better to have the kill than let him get away. And you're giving your friend an assist. At least he's getting an assist, better than nothing. So
assists are still way good for people. Like this game, there are no KSing. Just if you have the ability to murder something, go ahead and murder it.
Right.
Don't give the enemy any opportunity to potentially get away. As for not feeling like, it depends. Did you carry yourself to gold riding that like super OP Skarner train when his pylons were sort of bugged and he had way more bonus stats earlier than he was supposed to? Because like that Skarner was on a whole different level. Have you done it over the past couple weeks with like the post nerf Skarner where he's kind of leveled out now? He's still good. Or was this before all of that? I love Skarner as a champion, and he's really, really strong if you can get some kills early. But if you're able to get those kills early, you have to do everything you can to try and finish that game out as quickly as possible, because he has a massive fall off after probably 45 minutes.
But so, Chira, how do you put that gold to use as a Skarner player, assuming that you can't just like build him straight DPS and kill everybody on the enemy team?
I mean, if I'm the only tanky person on the team, I will end up probably just going Titanic Hydra or Black Cleaver and rolling in full tank after that. You're still doing a significant amount of damage, and then basically not only are you completely removing one person from the fight by ulting them potentially, but you get so tanky at a point where they can't even stay near you because you're going to reach them and you're not going to die before you get to them.
And what are you using your ult more for? Are you using it more for peeling or for initiating?
How
effective is Skarner as an initiator?
It really depends.
Is he like that line on flash?
It really, really depends on the positioning of the enemy. So, like, let's say you were able to... let's see. Say they just position poorly and you're able to get a pick by like dropping your E for the slow, and then you only have to run a very short distance to end up getting your stun off with your auto attack. You can immediately go in on a target of opportunity on that, smack him with it, end up grabbing him right back into your team and hopefully killing them, because the whole goal is to murder somebody before your ult ends. Otherwise, if they have somebody that's really fed and that's just going to dive your carry, yeah, you can just rip that guy right off your carry and like drag him off to the side or back into his team, and then go and scare the enemy AD carry away, because then you'll just E and chase them down. Like, you get to a point where you get really, really tanky. It's just you can eventually be kited, and you are dependent on flash in order to get off like really interesting instant crazy ganks. Otherwise, you have to play a little bit smarter, and you'll have to deward the jungle a bit and hope to get a pick or a position properly to potentially get a stun off and drag a high priority target away. If, say, you see an enemy support that's out warding and you're chilling around and there's somebody that can help you kill them, blow your ult on them and murder them so it's a 4v5. It becomes so situational in how you use that ability, and you don't always have to use it on like, hey, I have to grab that AD carry.
They're cutting you through
don't be locked in the fact that like, my job as Skarner is to only grab this one person for the entire game, because I've seen those players do that kind of stuff. But it just really, it comes from playing a lot of Skarner. Like, you just kind of have to have a feeling, oh, hey, I'm this strong this early. This is what the enemy team is. Can I buy a T-Force, or do I need to roll into a tankier item or whatever else in order to do what I need to do for the game and end up finishing as quickly as possible? Because if you get something like a T-Force and your team doesn't have a split pusher, you could potentially split push.
So
or you can 1v1 almost anybody.
There was a question on the subreddit about Rek'Sai building a Black Cleaver and yada yada. And I played Rek'Sai the other day, and I went, what did I do? I finished shit, what's the jungle item with health? I can't remember the name. Cinder Hulk.
Cinder Hulk.
I went Cinder Hulk, Tiamat, Titanic Hydra right into it but it was also depending on how the game was going. I mean, we were ahead by a couple kills, so I was able to go that extra tanky route or that extra damage route. But the same thing, Skarner kind of plays the same way Rek'Sai does, where after you get an early kill, early assist, or you are far enough ahead in the jungle, you have to make your decision. What is my next route going to be? And every time you go back, you have to make the decision. How is my game going? Am I ahead by a kill? I could probably afford to go Mobies right now rather than pick up my jungle item, and I could try to gank some more. And turn that around for me. Or I can go my jungle item. I can try to farm harder and be there to counter gank. And these are the decisions you have to make as a jungler. How is my enemy jungler been playing? And what can I do to stop my enemy jungler in his tracks? Because at the end of the day, that's your lane partner, right? And that's probably the hardest part that I've had to learn as a jungler. Granted, I'm still learning at it, but that's like the thing that I've been trying to focus on the most is that I have a kill. What am I going to spend that gold on? Am I going to make the most impact in the game by buying Mobies early, or am I going to make a better impact by buying a ward and my Cinder Hulk? You have to make that decision because you have to, evaluate your skill. Then you move in. You bought your Cinder Hulk. You have your boots. Now what do I do? Do I do damage? But you have to remember that's 1,200 gold that you could have spent on more tanky items. Can you make that effective? That's what Chiro is talking about here. You have to look at the game and try to decide based on how the game is playing out if you think that'll work. Now, always think ahead. It's chess game. In the next 5 minutes after I spend that 1,200 gold, am I going to make that 1,200 gold a damage worthwhile, or would I do better off by counter-engaging or peeling with that 1,200 gold as a tank item?
All right, so for an example of this, if you get 3 kills in the early game and you know you're going up against a Kalista Braum later, and that Braum's going to be doing nothing but peeling for Kalista, and you don't have flash up because you just burned it, what's going to be better for that situation? Having a T-Force or being able to live to get to that Kalista to grab her?
T-Force.
I think it's something else.
I don't even buy T-Force on him anymore. It's Titanic Hydra now.
Most the build on him right now is Cinder Hulk into like Cleaver, and then building Boots, Deadman's Iceborne, and then into Sterix if you can finish it. But again, that's almost full tanky, and you're doing your job. He has a lot of damage baked into his kit now, especially with the pylons if you're able to control those. So like, you don't have to build a T-Force. That's sort of a gimmicky sort of thing you can do at lower levels in order to just scare the shit out of the enemy team and carry yourself up until you get the players that kind of know what they're doing, and then it becomes a whole different situation. Like, certain things work to certain points, and then once you get there, it's like, God, I have to relearn how I'm going to play this because people know how to deal with it.
And I'm glad you guys are providing like build options, things like this about new Skarner, because I don't know how old this question is. But Ken, I know you said you main Skarner, so you probably have a good understanding on how to build, play him, etc. You said you've hit a wall, and you're thinking that it's because you're suffocating your teammates from taking kills. I don't think that's the problem. I think if you let champions get away, that's more of a problem than taking kills and carrying the game in solo queue.
Like, if you take a kill, sure, you got more money than potentially somebody else, but let's say you went to mid lane and your mid laner got an assist, the enemy didn't kill your mid laner, so they're still getting ahead on gold, and then the enemy's dead, so you can just immediately go and help shove down a turret. That's way more meaningful than potentially letting somebody like Zed get away and then can sit out of range at the turret and poke down that wave, not allowing you to get that turret.
Yeah, I get the feeling that the wall is just not understanding Skarner well enough, because he is so complicated. As Chira has been talking forever on how complicated
you can do a lot of
Skarner
things with him. You just need that. Like, he's not a complicated champion.
But he's got so many options.
But you have to make the right decision. You have to just know what you have to do perfectly instantly.
Right decisions, right build path. What are you going to do in team fights? You've got the option to split push. Do you know how to split push? All of that comes into effect.
Do you know how to split
push? And if you've got the gold, having more money, more problems. If you've got the gold because you're securing all those last hits, then you've got to make those decisions. I mean, it's not as difficult when you're getting all the assists, your teammates are getting farmed, and all right, I was got to build tanky to supplement my teammates. I mean, if you've got the gold and you might need to build that damage, but you might also need to build that tank, what do? That's the dilemma here.
I will. I think if you're doing a flowchart in your head about these items on any jungler, just about any jungler, I can't say any because like Diana and Fiddle and those AP junglers are weird in this sense. But with that said, if you think you should build tank, I'm going to tell you to build tank.
You should probably build tank.
Yeah. Because unless you have, I don't know, 100 games in that champion, 35 games in that champion, and you have a ton of... Yeah, jungle is just so weird.
Whoever you're playing against.
Yeah, jungle is just so weird in the fact that you need 100 games in jungle to be able to be decent at it. And that's like intro level junglers 100 games, right? Because there's so many more scenarios that a jungler can go through than any laner will ever have, that it makes it difficult to tell you how to build or how to capitalize on it. And to go back to your original question here, just to kind of roll back, Chiro said it earlier, take all the kills, focus that into trying to make opportunities for your team to objectives, yeah, etc. But also, I think the tank discussion here we're talking about, and the way you're building discussion is probably the one that you need to focus on the most, because if you're taking the kills and you're not turning that into gold and something that's going to get your team ahead, like building tank.
Or you're not finishing the game.
Then you're not and you can't finish the game because let's say you went Trinity for Skarner, but Chira brought it earlier, you don't have a tank or an engager. You are the engager. Trinity Force does you no good because you blow up before you bring that person back into your team. On the other hand, like, even if you're building full tank and you're not the engager, just being in the team fight and causing disruption, being that person that is going to be a nuisance like Garen, does more for your team than you trying to blow somebody up in a rotation.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. Is ask yourself, what am I going to do with this gold and how am I going to use it? And I will answer that question for you and say that building tanky is generally better for people who are inexperienced than it is for players who have a greater understanding of how to play this game.
And if you want a quick tip on how to win some solo queue games, especially against lower level people, if you can get a couple kills off on one person and you know that you're able to kill them, make the game their hell for the next 20 minutes. Like whenever people ask me how to play Olaf, my first thing is learn how to land your Q in just the right range to be able to run up and grab it as you're hitting them. So you can continually push it and then pick somebody on the other team that's just going to be your bitch for the next however long that game lasts. And you want them to basically AFK by the end of it because you want to ruin their day.
You know what? Olaf seems like such an easy champion to play because you press R and run at him, but he's really difficult.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to land that Q and be able to pick up the Q. And then land the Q again while you're chasing somebody who is trying to kite you. The problem with Olaf is camera management and skill shot, being able to land your skill shot while you have camera management. Like that
Q is tricky.
It's actually sort of similar with Skarner now that your E is your CC stun. So like there's a lot of parallels you can draw in kind of how you play those two champions. It's just one has a little bit more leeway, but a little less CC.
Yep. So just alter your focus. Keep doing the kills like you've been doing, and focus on something else with Skarner. Improving in another area, and you'll probably go over that wall or crash through it and continue climbing.
Let's answer Ryan's question here as the last question of the night. Then we're going to jump into announcements to end out the show. So Ryan asks, what mentality should I have when going into my ranked games, especially my Game 5 promo series as a solo queue player? How should I mentally prepare before individual games before I sit down to begin the ranked game grind for a few hours? Now, I know we talked about this a few podcasts ago because we had one called Finish the Climb. And then we went over a lot of this, but I think it's a good time to reiterate in case those players
rehash some stuff.
Forgot
to. The best mentality you can have when going to our promos is be prepared to lose. Do not expect to win. There's a good chance you're not going to. And if you're expecting to win and you don't, for whatever reason, you're probably going to find excuses for what that reason is. The most frequent reason is your teammates. You're just going to rage. You're going to rage like, oh, I didn't win. This is bullshit. I should have won for X, Y, and Z, but I lost because my teammates suck. And how do you think you're going to play after that? The answer is poorly. Be prepared to lose and don't mind losing. Because the idea is, and this is what we covered in the episode, is the idea in solo queue is to get better in every game. That's what you want to do. Don't care so much about the LP. Worry about getting better by yourself. Just your solo play. Criticize your play after every game and identify how you played. Did I play well? And if the answer is yes, then win or lose, you're on the right track. Because if you keep improving, you're just gonna win over time naturally. And I'm not sure you will get through that promos.
Okay, so my solo queue mentality since even joining the show, since I started originally playing solo queue and kind of where I'm at now, when I go into a game, regardless if it's promos or whatever, the last game of my series to get to plat, I had a guy pick Tom Kench in the top lane, and this is after a month of me saying how much I hate Tom Kench and he's a trash champion and nobody should ever pick him, and my support player playing Yorick, and I'm playing Udyr, and we get in the game, and I didn't dodge or anything, and in the past, like, I definitely didn't dodge because it's it's my promos, but in the past, if I ran into a situation where I didn't feel that great about like how people were talking in chat or whatever, I'd be like, okay, maybe I should save some LP or whatever. And then if I felt bad about a game before going into the game, I'd rather not play that game. However, since this is a promo game, a little bit different story. So I immediately changed my mentality up to, all right, what do I need to do to have fun this game? That's all there is to it. Like, just go out and have fun. And the next part is, if you die, every single time that I die, I ask myself, all right, what do I need to do to win this? Or like, what mistake did I make right there that I can't make next time? Or what's the next thing I have to do to push this game forward to ultimately killing that Nexus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, take stock of the state of the game.
Yeah.
Like, is your team ahead? Is the enemy team ahead? What's the next objective to contest? What are your win conditions? I mean, you're dead. You're not doing anything else. You might as well.
I like how you mentioned, Chira, how you would it was promo, so you wouldn't dodge, but otherwise you might have, so you had to change your mentality.
Yep.
This is one of the reasons I pretty much never dodge. I know we were talking about it. Here's a right way to dodge, when to dodge, blah, blah. But if you get used to doing that and then you hit your promos, you're always going to do worse in your 5 promos because your mentality is going to be all out of whack. Unless you're like Chira and you've adjusted it and you can change it on a whim. But don't set yourself up for failure. Don't dodge games. If you see games like that, worst case scenario, you lose. You're not wasting time because you're playing the game that you love. You're playing the game that you're having fun with.
The problem you're having here.
Yeah, Paul, how do you feel about dodging?
No. The problem with this, your advice is that if you have a team comp where like you have like there was a team comp I should have dodged this. I was playing with Punch. We had Katarina, Riven, Lee Sin, Tristana, I think, and Soraka. I'm pretty sure that was our team comp. That team comp is never gonna win. Like unless that Lee Sin is fucking godlike,
crazy early game,
right?
Yeah.
No, and that's why I played it, right? But like. In the future, if I see a team like that, I dodge it because all I lose is 3 LP, 0 MMR, and at the end of the day, MMR is all that matters when it comes to ranking up because if you lose 0 MMR but you lose 3 LP, you're going to gain that 3 LP back in the game that you win because your MMR didn't suffer. And now if you're dodging 3 or 4 in a row and your timer's 15, 20 minutes and you're wasting a ton of time, you get time to waste, I understand that, but... yeah. If you should be ready to dodge at least one game if you're playing in we'll say a 3 or 4 hour series because that 15 LP loss is negated by a 3 LP loss and no MMR loss. So dodging one game isn't a bad idea if you look at that team and just you have no idea.
The way Adam, I think the best way to phrase that, or at least the way I rationalize dodging, if like say people are already raging out in Champion Select and it's already looking really, really bad, my thoughts are, all right, if I get into this game and we win, that's cool. But if I get into this game and we lose, well, I want to play another game after.
Fair. That's another good one. Yes, absolutely.
So there's actually there's a point to make on there's something I wanted to say to the other side of the argument here. And that very same day I was playing with Pone, there was another game where there was some rage in the chat part of the game. And this was another scenario where Pone was debating dodging. And you ended up not dodging that one, but we did win. So it's kind of 50-50. Well, I don't know what the percentages are.
I think it's more based on like the team
I see
comp,
both sides of the argument. Like I do see, really bad team comp. Yeah, a lot of times I do want to dodge, but then there are some games where I get that really bad team comp and I still win. It's hard to identify.
For me, it's more of like negativity in Champ Select because it's like if I don't want to play with these people, then that's the big one.
If you've already gotten that, but if I like how you said 3 LP 0 MMR. If you're good, if you do the math, you see where you're at. You see you're planning out your ranked time and you have limited time. I can see doing that. you've adjusted my thought on that process because of the math is there to back it. And also, when you're doing the math, you're kind of mentally preparing yourself for a loss of LP or the losses, and then you go into the next one not feeling quite as bad as if you had played that one out and lost it. So I can see that, but you have to remember, once you hit promos, you don't have that option anymore.
Yeah,
so you have to change your mindset completely. Like Chiro said, here's my mindset. I get into one of these games.
The rules
just
change.
Try to have fun to keep my morale up, because we'll go for the next one, but try everything you can to win. And I agree with everything that was said before with the
when it comes to promos,
about how you can
when
win,
it comes to promos too, if somebody picks kind of a trolley champ or whatever, I'll always be like, if somebody starts to, especially in promos, because like a lot of solo queue is manipulating everybody on your team into working together.
Yeah, it is.
Like that's a lot of how it is. So like, let's say that you get into a situation promos where you can't dodge, and then people are getting sort of, one guy, let's say a guy picks Tom Kench top, and there's people on your team that aren't happy about it or something like that. I'll always do something like, all right, whatever, Tom Kench top, that's cool, but just make me proud, buddy. Like something like something small like that, or to be like, oh, everybody, things will be great. Like just try to sort of take the edge off the situation or make light of the situation in a way where it kind of calms certain people down. And then somebody brought up in chat, like picking interesting or different kind of champions can throw off enemy teams. People weren't exactly ready for Tom Kench ganks from the top lane into bottom lane with their jungler, with like 4 people showing up in lane almost instantly, and then there being 4v2, which was great. But that's the first time I'd seen somebody know how to play that champion actually do it.
That's I'm really glad that you brought that up too. And I'm glad that you brought up how you would say something like, good luck, buddy. You would be positive for the person who's playing that champion. But also, if you notice those other people are getting, they're demoralized because of that particular pick, you can say, you know what, I've seen this before, and actually it works really well. Malzahar jungle.
Right.
I was like, oh man, we lost this one, but he destroyed, and he was the one that caused us, allowed us to win.
Just to point out, to go back to the weird, crazy team comps that work and this and that, though, but a lot of the times those crazy team comps work because you have somebody like a Malphite, or you have some kind of weird engager like a Mumu in the top lane, or somebody who can transition into that role that helps your team comp out.
There's synergy.
There's some synergy there. Like the one that Punch brought up earlier, we had a Malphite mid who, granted, he did really well when we played the game. I think he had a couple kills coming out of lane, so he was already ahead. But like Malphite, no matter where he's at, even support, has the ability to engage in 5 people at some point in that game if he gets a pick, and that could turn the team fight around. So you have to understand solo queue and understand crazy team comps, you have to understand what each champion does, and that comes with a greater understanding, greater knowledge of how the game plays out and what that champion is capable of. So if you are in bronze and you're thinking about dodging because it's not the perfect team comp, maybe you need to take a step back and go and play those weird champions you've never seen, even if it's Katarina, so you have a better understanding of how those champions play out and why they work or don't work in certain situations. So a lot of times it's having the broader understanding of
to
playing
learn
this game.
and just play it yourself, and you'll understand. But also, don't get tunnel visioned. If you are looking at your team comp, look at their team comp and look at the matchups. Maybe they had a plan. Maybe it's something that will totally wreck them in lane.
Yeah,
but it looks like it's not a normal pick, but they picked it because it's a perfect counter to whatever champion they pick. So
speaking of the Tom Kench, I've seen that dude demolish people in lane. Like, I've seen him just absolutely take shits on people, but then his team wasn't able to carry. His team wasn't able to carry, and then he lost because we talked about it last time. I mean, these champions, they work, and it's not always just Tom where he has a mid-game power spike. There's some champions that get dumped on in lane, like Poppy, and then come back and just completely carry the game because nobody knows how to, move it out by mid-game. Anything's possible in this game. That's why it's such a hard topic to talk about a podcast about, because there's such a wide variety of if, ands, or buts that can happen.
If you're in doubt, don't
Poppy
dodge,
out.
see how it goes.
If you're in doubt, Poppy out, right?
Yep.
Pick Poppy. You know what? I'm going to roll this into some announcements at the end of this podcast because
we can answer the rest of this guy's question at another point. We already hit on a couple things, but we'll definitely talk about this again.
We have a very long track record of going off of whatever the question that is, coming in and talking about things. But
what was the question again?
This Saturday, you have this podcast on Friday. You might be listening to it. Headed over to All Mid, guys. Thank you for supporting us and heading to Cincinnati, Ohio that weekend and checking us out at the All Mid Collegiate Invitational. We'll be talking about it on this following Monday or the next podcast you listen to, episode 299, how well it went. As well, we will be releasing a individual podcast like 299.5, which will be the podcast from All Mid, assuming that the recording
audio works out great.
Right, because I'll be bringing my laptop and a microphone. There? I already shared with you what we're talking about.
I don't read that stuff.
We're going to be talking about. It is essentially episode, 220, 250, whatever it was, when we had Chris Alfanar on, when we talked about the psychology of League of Legends. We're essentially doing that same podcast as a live podcast, but I'm sure it'll be a little bit different or a little bit,
a little bit more up to date too.
A little more up to date, right? So we're essentially rehashing what we already talked about, but it'll just it's a nice refresher. Every 50 episodes or so, I think we should talk about psychology as it relates to League of Legends, because that's about every 6 months.
Huge part of it.
Correct. Yeah, guys, that's at All Mid. Also, please go check out bit.ly/TForce Card, as Prolific Games has started their new Kickstarter called, what is it? Cultists and Cthulhu's. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of the word cultist. It's Cultists and Cthulhu's. It is a tabletop game. You play with dice and cards. It's much like Flapjacks and Sasquatches. It is a lot of fun. These guys, Chira and Punch, will be here early Friday. We're definitely going to play Flapjacks and Sasquatches. We might even stream it on the T-Force channel. You know what? I think I'm going to bring my computer out. We'll hang up the camera. We'll stream us playing, drinking, and fun. Fun fact, that is Chira and Punch. You guys get to try my beer on Friday.
Yeah.
At my homebrew.
Can't wait.
I am kegging my homebrew tomorrow night, Thursday, putting it under pressure, and we will be tapping the keg on Friday evening.
Nice.
So that'll be a lot of fun. You guys get to try this experimental homebrew. But yeah, guys, go check that out. bit.ly/TForce Card. Please go check that out. They definitely need your help. They're only like $4,000 away, I believe, at this point from finishing out their Kickstarter. So every little bit helps. $25 gets you the game, and you help the guys make the game. I mean, $25 for a board game, for how many hours of entertainment you're going to get out of that. Bring all your friends together, play them at events. Don't forget to come down to All Mid and check out the Dungeons & Dragons tables as well, as LeShock and the T-Force RPG community will be playing Dungeons & Dragons there. There'll be more than one game set up. And finally,
that's awesome.
Go check out TrinityForceNetwork.com. If you're watching live, I'm sorry you're not going to be able to check it, but as of Friday, the new TrinityForceNetwork.com is finally hitting. Now, there are no user profiles because we were unable to get those going to launch the website, but we figured with being able to do photos, blog posts, and have more than one community on the website, at least so you can easily access Hearthstone, RPG, and League of Legends, that it was just as good as having those user profiles. And plus, it gives those guys a break, because the guys have been working really hard to try to get this thing up and going. So yeah, TrinityForceNetwork.com. Please check that out. We're going to tell you guys to go there every single week. It's going to be very awesome. We're going to be doing blog posts with Worlds coming up. We're going to be doing photos and videos and da 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 da. It's going to be great. Like, check TrinityForceNetwork.com.
Fun place to hang out.
Yeah, I think that's it. You know what? As this show ends, listen to, and you know what? Thank you for listening. Someone said thank you for the podcast. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, because we do this for you guys.
Yeah. And thank you. One last thing, or two last things. Battle Arena, guys. If you guys haven't been signing up for Battle Arena recently, like, go out to TrinityForceNetwork.com. Click on the Battle Arena sign up. Go sign up. That's Thursdays at 7 p.m. Santana, Kargan, and Ugly Tuco. Those guys have been doing it.
Crazy Phil,
Crazy
all those
Phil,
motherfuckers.
Yes. Those guys
that are holding down the fort. We love you guys. So
those guys have been doing
good work.
Fucking fantastic job getting that going, the Battle Arena, and making sure people get better. So, guys, go chat up for Battle Arena. Bronze Boot Camp is kind of like in this weird transition period. I promise it's coming back, but Bronze Boot Camp's every Saturday at noon Eastern time. At least one game. Go sign up for that. And we're going to be talking about doing it later in the evening and, switching things up. We're in transition period right now with Trinity Force. Speaking of, thank you for your patronage for the month of September. If you did go to patreon.com/TForce Network, you received a Olaf and Callista/Mordekaiser podcast for doing that. It's a 2-for-1 with Lapman. And we are going to be having more podcasts come out there, patreon.com/TForce Network. Guys, please go out there and help us, because I will say this, if you guys go to our Patreon and you start giving us your hard-earned money, it's going to come back to you guys in spades, right? Because already you should see what we did for All Mid. I've been going. I text Sean the other day. I'm like, dude, we are just going all batshit with this. Like we have banners and we're doing RP giveaways and we're setting up a computer there for you guys to do a podcast contest. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And to give you guys a heads up, if you guys help support us, we'll be at PAX East. We're hoping to have a booth out there at PAX East.
That's the goal right now.
How cool would that be?
We will be able to afford the booth. If Patreon keeps going the way it's going and we continue to deliver on our promises, we will have a booth at PAX East, assuming that PAX East gives us the booth.
And also, as soon as things get finalized with our friends at Buckeye Land and a little collaboration with the T-Force Network, Buckeye Land at Ohio State, and the Esports Initiative at Ohio State, we should be putting on a pretty awesome world sort of thing here for the finals event. And I just actually got a text mid-show saying that there's exciting news coming. So I'm waiting to get this all finalized so I can say, hey, people show up at this place at this time, and you can hang out, and we'll watch some games together.
And it starts early. It starts like 8 a.m. in that morning.
Yeah, it's supposed to start really, really early. So yeah, I want to get that information out as soon as I can, but we're just waiting to make sure things are good to go and locked in before I'm like, hey, everybody show up at Columbus on this time that people can. So,
not like last year where we announced stuff and then like 24 hours before we had to change our entire plans. God, that was a shit show.
Well, and this, like, just look at it like this. We'll be basically watching Worlds in a big lecture hall. So it should be pretty sweet. Anybody who can go should come up.
All right, guys. That's episode number 298 of the Trinity Force podcast. I do want to point out one last thing that you guys will probably see some changes with Trinity Force proper over the next few weeks. Nothing big, nothing huge, nothing crazy. I mean, not like we're losing anybody. DeClaude's still going to be here. I know I made the swan song joke, but that's because DeClaude's going to be gone for just probably an episode or two. But
yeah, my attendance is going to be a little spotty just because of
He's a man that's busy with a beautiful baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Give him
and
some leeway.
separation anxiety. Either that or I'm just going to
make her a part of the show, dude.
Lancifer.
Bring her on.
All this screaming.
Yeah, just bring her on. She could talk about throwing toys.
Yeah. Yeah, I might do that. I'll work something out. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I made that joke earlier about the Swan Song thing. It was more or less just saying that he's going to be gone for maybe an episode or two here and there. So, but yeah, no, you guys can always expect the same crew out of us. Daisy is actually coming back. If you guys are missing her, she promised me she will be back full time starting next week.
So we're gonna hold her to it.
Yeah, she's just had a really rough time between Champion Select and the pregnancy and everything that she hasn't been able to come around because of it. So she'll be back full time as of next week. Yeah, we're back to the original 5-man crew for a little while. How exciting! Original.
Original.
All right, that's episode
T-Force 2.0. That's now what? 4.5?
It's like more like 4.5 at this point. Yeah. Go back. All right, guys, that's episode 298. I'm sorry. This is why I keep stuff to the end now, because we can ramble for 10 or 15 minutes about stuff that's important or not. But whatever. 298, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the supporting us over at patreon.com/T-Force Network. We promise to bring more to you as we go forward. So, guys, TrinityForceNetwork.com. We're out of here. Peace.
See ya. We love you.